Welcome to Pivot Parenting, where we help parents of teens overcome regret and disappointment to find peace and connection in every situation. I'm Heather Frazier, your parenting expert. Journey with me to discover effective parenting tips, improve family relationships, and build a brighter future for your kids. Buckle up, things are about to get better. All right, Caitlin, welcome to Pivot Parenting. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love being able to give my audience live coaching. Well, this is recorded coaching, but actual coaching sessions. So I really appreciate you being willing to come and meet with me.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's dive right in. How can I help you best?
So I have a preteen, almost teen boy that, of course he's wonderful. But I don't know, I guess, what is normal for teen boy and what is bad behavior or could be better. There's a lot of lack of responsibility that, and a lot of it is forgetfulness. I think not putting things away when he gets them out, not closing cabinets when he opens them, like just things like that. And there's his stuff is kind of everywhere, and he's one of five, and everybody else kind of seems to put stuff away, but he's very quick to do it when asked. He does a lot of things without thinking, and I think that's also where I don't know what is boy, what is teen, and just doesn't think through the consequences, doesn't think through if I say this, it might be hurtful, or if I do this, somebody might get offended. That happens a lot. And he is very quick to apologize. And there's a lot of apology that happens. I try to apologize to show them what apologies should look like, but he will apologize, but then there's no change. So he feels remorse, but then it kind of repeats the next day. And some things do get better. If he knows that he's doing something wrong, he does try to correct that. But I think it's a lot of just not thinking through his actions, his behavior. He also he's kind of in the middle whenever we're around peers, where he doesn't really want to hang out with the really, really bad kid, but he also doesn't want to hang out with the really quiet, good kid. So he tries to kind of find a middle. And we do homeschool, but we are part of a co-op. And he's kind of found himself where the older boys will kind of pick on him because he will kind of push back a little bit. And I think he doesn't know how to handle that well. He's very, very likable. He's very liked. And I think that some of these older boys don't like that because he can kind of do whatever he wants and people still like him. The girls still like him. But he's kind of gotten to where he kind of just pushes back a little too much, where it can kind of seem like just meanness. And he thinks it's funny or he's kidding, and then it makes these other kids really mad. And so that's kind of the main things where we're at.
Okay, and what are you struggling with the most in his behaviors?
I think just the lack of responsibility and maybe the change. So knowing that he's not doing something that he was asked to do or that's expected in a family of seven, of putting your stuff away, or just the gentleness. I mean, he's really tough and he's really strong and he's brave. So I think he doesn't realize sometimes not everybody wants to joke around the same way or wrestle and things like that.
Okay, cool. Can you give me one specific situation that you were bothered by his lack of responsibility and change and gentleness?
So with schoolwork, they're assigned schoolwork from the co-op, and he knows that he has it. It's written out for him, knows that he's supposed to get it done. They can earn electronic time on Fridays, and he will either get it done right before Friday, and I'll remind him through the week. Right now is time for your science. Go do your science work. And a lot of times he'll tell me he does. And so he goes and he'll kind of sit and look at it, but not actually do it. And then it'll be Monday night is the night before we have co-op. And he's like, oh, I didn't get all this done. I need help writing my paper. I need help doing this when he's had a week to do it. And I've reminded him, I see him sitting down doing it, but he's not actually doing it. And I don't fully know it until it's time Monday night. I don't have this done. So there's been a lot of times that he goes to co-op school and doesn't have his work done. And he's gotten to the point where it doesn't bother him as much. And because I think there's not really a consequence, I did tell him that if he doesn't pass his classes, then he has to repeat grades. And that kind of made him shut down, where he just felt like he was going to fail. So he stopped doing everything.
Yeah.
And so I think part of that is probably, I know that fear of failure, but that things like that, where he knows what he has to do. But I think sometimes he can get overwhelmed and doesn't know exactly how to order it and do it. So that would be an example of just that lack of responsibility.
Okay. So tell me, did he do it? Has he done it this week? It's toward the end of the week. Is this happening this week?
Yeah, so he did it today because they had a chance to have some electronic time today. So all of the work that he was supposed to do yesterday, he kind of just did it really quickly today. And he if he knows that something's gonna come up, like he'll get to do something that'll be privileges, then he has no problem doing it. And a lot of times, like especially with math, he has to get his math done in the mornings, and he will do it if there's something he has to look forward to. But if there's not kind of a motivator, then he really
Okay.
struggles.
So did it bother you this week, or should we look at a different week?
Maybe a different week because this week he had less
Okay.
stuff to do because next week's our last week.
Sure. How about last week?
So last week he had his math to do, which he's gotten better at doing that. He struggles with math. He does have dyslexia. And so there's things that he struggles with, but he doesn't want to ask for help because he thinks it takes longer. And he doesn't want to watch the lecture because he thinks it takes longer. And
Right.
and so he's doing those things. And then his science work, if he doesn't fully understand it, then he doesn't ask for help until Monday. Then he's like, oh, I don't have it all done.
Okay, so did this happen last week where you were agitated at his lack of responsibility?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just look at last week.
Okay.
In what area were you most upset? Give me just like a little snapshot of where you were most upset.
Okay. I think it's the Monday nights of I have all this to do. Can you please help me? Because I'm seeing that he wants to do it, but he he doesn't manage his time well,
Okay, so
maybe.
what happened Monday night?
So we're getting everything ready, get your backpack ready, get ready for co-op, get your snack ready, everything, and make sure all of your work is in your backpack. And then he will say, "Well, I didn't get it all done. Can you help me with it?" And it's about bedtime is when this happens. And so then he'll say, I don't have it done. Can you just help me look over it? And a lot of times I will. And I'll get it out with him and I'll say, okay, this is where you can find this in this chapter. And it's usually his science that he usually has homework in science. And so that's kind of what happened, where I think this is the week that I said, you're gonna have to do it or you're just gonna have to go and not have anything to turn in.
Okay, so if I'm getting a direct quote, he said, I don't have it done. Can you help me look over it?
Yes.
And you said you're gonna have to do it or just go without it done.
Yes.
Okay. And then what was your primary emotion as this was happening?
Probably frustration. Yeah, I would say frustration.
Okay. What was most frustrating? Tell me about it.
Think that I gave him the opportunity throughout the week to ask me, and I would say, I'm available if you need help on this day at this time. If you need to bring something to me, bring it to me during these days. And so I had told him that through the week before, and but he didn't bring it to me until bedtime Monday night when it's due Tuesday.
Okay. So why were you frustrated?
I think because he had an opportunity to have my full attention to be able to help him with it, and he didn't bring it to me then. He did it when I'm trying to get everybody in bed. We're trying to get ready because we have to get up early the next morning.
Which means what?
I don't know.
Like that he's lazy, that he's ungrateful, that he's disorganized, that
Oh, disorganized.
um
Yeah, I would say more disorganized and procrastinating.
okay, so he shouldn't procrastinate and he should be more organized. Is that kind of why, like the thought process and why you were frustrated, or can you articulate that better than me?
Yeah, maybe more just time management, which I guess would go under that organization,
Okay.
or just even get when I give him a time, this is the time that we're gonna get our schoolwork done. Everybody kind of gets their stuff out. If you need help, I'm here. I will sit with you, get it done. And then he'll usually tell me, well, I don't need help. I don't need help. And then come Monday, then he realized that he either forgot something or that he needs help. And he doesn't ask me until Monday. So he has this opportunity to ask the whole week before, but he waits till Monday night because he realizes he didn't actually get it done.
Okay. Let me ask this again now that we've got a few examples of what I mean. Why is that a problem? Why is that frustrating?
I think because he wants to do well and I see him wanting to do well, but he's he's not doing it. He's not doing what has been assigned to him. And it's not just that. Like it'll be his chores or it'll be all like
I'm
everything.
sure he does it
I
all
think
over the place. Yeah. But
yeah,
just
yeah.
last week, Monday morning, you were frustrated because you were thinking like he's not organized, he has poor time management. Like, what was going on in your head? Why was it so frustrating?
I think because it's bedtime and he's asking at a time that trying to get all the other kids their stuff together and it's time for his bedtime, but then he doesn't go to bed because he realized he still has homework.
Yeah. Yeah. The night before dread, when you know you're ill prepared.
Yes.
The sad, sad
Yes.
state to find ourselves in. I think we can all relate to that one. Poor buddy. Okay. So you're frustrated. So what happened next?
I think I had him look over it. I may have looked at the questions with him and then told him to find them in his book. He has a book that goes with, and the questions that he has for science are written out really well, and it's just for one chapter. And he did most of it and then put his stuff away and then went on to the next
Okay.
procrastination before bedtime.
And what was going on for you? What were you doing, thinking, feeling? Like if I was a fly on the wall and in your head, what would I observe?
I think it would have just been like care for him, wanting him to be able to have it to turn in. Because
Sure.
I think I was just trying to get all the probably the kitchen cleaned up and getting the other kids in bed, bedtime snacks, getting them in bed.
Was was your head repeating thoughts or having ideas about the situation?
No, I feel like other than I feel like this is a got we've gotten into a really bad routine of this is Monday nights. That's probably would have been my thought of how can we do this better? How can we not have this happen? So I've tried different things where we have like a checklist or we have a schedule and I give them a checklist or you write down a checklist of what you have to do. So I've tried different things to help with that and it works for like a day or two and then it does not.
Okay. So you're trying to problem solve in your head.
Yes.
Okay. If he had had everything ready and he put his snacks in his bag and all his schoolwork stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I'm ready for bed," and it was all done, what would you have done in that situation that you couldn't do or wouldn't do, not interested in doing because that's not what happened?
Mhm. I think to have that time would be to go and I go into each of their rooms. There two boys share a room and then two boys share a room and then my daughter. And I think just to have that time to go and sit and talk with them. So I do that every night, just to have that extra time to be able to talk about the day or talk about the next day. And so just to have that extra time to do that instead of doing something that could have already been done.
Okay, so you didn't do that with him or you didn't do that with all the kids?
I still do that with all the kids, but then it pushes me to going to bed later, which then I feel like is the ripple effect of going to bed too late. And it's a lot of times the other kids will go into their room. My husband does the same thing, goes into each of their rooms
Yeah.
and talks to them for a little bit. And so I think just not having the extra time of calmness before bed, it's more just of a frustration, like it should have been done, it wasn't done. But I think it's more that it has built on throughout the day. This was something else that didn't get done. And just that, yeah, just I guess the lack of responsibility, but then also not knowing what to expect for his age and the boy and
Yeah.
dyslexia, the learning challenges and all of that.
Yeah. So is it fair to assume that something that you didn't get on Monday night was time for yourself, is what I'm hearing. Is that accurate or no?
No, well, no, because I am spending it with the kids. And so then I usually go to bed after I've gone to each of their rooms. And so the time kind of spent with, instead of us having to go over stuff that could have already been done, we could be kind of having this calm bedtime instead of this. He's stressed because he didn't get it done. So then I'm frustrated because he had the opportunity to get it done.
Okay, so then you're shorting yourself sleep. Like, where's the
Yes, for
deficit
sure.
here?
Yes. Yeah, for sure sleep.
Okay. Hi there. I just want to pause and let you know if you are struggling to make sense of your teen's behaviors, emotions are running wild, and you're looking to turn things around to have the family you dreamed of while rocking them to sleep, I would love to talk to you. I want to give you a special, powerful gift. 30 minutes with me, my friend. You'll walk away with more confidence, clarity, and understanding of what the issue is and your next best step in resolving any situation you bring to me. It's completely free. I love families and want to help yours be wildly happy and successful. Book this call by visiting my website, heatherfraser.com. Remember, Fraser is spelled with a Z-I in the middle. And don't worry, the link is also in the show notes. I look forward to meeting and helping you. Okay. So the whole time it sounds like kind of a summary of thoughts is the bedtime routine isn't working.
For sure. Yes.
Is that about right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. So then you thought of ways to change it, and you said you've kind of implemented things here and there to sort of change it, but it seems like nothing really sticks.
Hmm.
Has there been anything else that you've wanted to implement, but that you just haven't, or any other thoughts or feelings around that?
I think the things that I've tried are more during the day. And so there hasn't really been a way to figure out a good bedtime routine. I don't know how to do that. And so I think that, yeah, I think that the stuff that I've tried is more during the day
Okay.
than trying to implement the bedtime routine, which we all struggle with.
Okay. So you haven't really tried to alter the bedtime routine.
No, other than having a time like this, these kids go to bed at this time, and this kid goes to bed at this time, and kind of trying to stagger it and then you read a book. That's really the only thing that we've kind of implemented there. And then trying to fit sports into that. Sometimes it's later.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is it fair to say that you feel maybe stuck?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay. All right. Here's what I've got for you, and you tell me what you think, and then we'll kind of do a deep dive when we have it dialed in perfectly for you, okay? So
Okay.
we have the circumstance of his schoolwork and what needs to happen on each day of the week and each time of the day. Like Monday, we're prepping for school the next day, right? For
Mm-hmm.
co-op.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yes.
snacks and all the things, and Sun is just being Sun. Okay. And we know how Sun
Yes.
acts. I'm guessing you can
Mm-hmm.
predict him with like really good accuracy.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So then you have thoughts about how Sun is doing all of these things. Like He's not well organized. He's not good at time
Mhm.
management. Essentially, these thoughts kind of culminate into one main theme, which is
Mhm.
like he's doing it wrong or he should be different.
Mhm.
Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, which is really frustrating.
Yes.
When we look at people and like, no, you're not listening. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it poorly. You're not doing it at all, and you should be. Like, it's frustrating.
Yes, and sad. I mean, even just hearing like
Yeah,
that, it is sad. It's sad.
yeah. So then out of that frustration, you're trying to be a good mom, and you are. You're telling him exactly how to solve his problem. Look it up in the book. It's right here. This is what we can do. Like, you're showing up great, right? Like, you're trying to help him. You're trying to see the other kids. You're doing all the things,
Mhm.
which isn't easy when you've got 5 kids. You're cleaning up. You're putting the other kids to bed. But in your head, you're spinning out about how you have a bad bedtime routine, and yet you say you've never tried to tweak it or like
Mhm.
alter it or like fiddle with it. But you do like the daytime stuff, which I'm
Mhm.
guessing you're probably hoping bleeds into the bedtime routine.
Yeah, I think that the times that I think we would try a bedtime routine and it would work until the next stage of life. And I think
Yep.
maybe that is part of it too, where we're entering two teenagers compared to my elementary kid.
Yes.
And so I think that's what it is too, is we had a bedtime routine that we never had to really develop. It just kind of did flow into that. And now it's
Yeah.
not working whatever we've done before.
Oh my goodness. You're playing into the title so perfectly. We have to pivot. This is the pivot. Okay. So, but you haven't really tried anything to alter. So your judgments about him needing to do things differently is manifesting in real time for you. Like you're not doing anything differently either.
Hmm.
And so you're both, and I'm guessing that this is probably frustrating to your son too, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so everybody's frustrated, but we're still sticking with the same steps that don't work.
Hmm.
So if we look at this undercurrent of belief that son is doing it wrong or should be slightly different, that's playing out in real time for you in like the least helpful of ways because you're not being able to adapt and be different. Because if son would just comply, then everything would be fine, right? If he would listen, if he would actually do it on time. And so you're putting essentially the family schedule and your peace of mind on your son who like can't even do his homework on
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
Um, that makes me feel stuck because, and I think this is part of feeling stuck is
Yeah.
that I know, like, I love who he is, and
Yeah.
I know that he's afraid of failure. And I mean, I could see that in myself. I could see it in my other kids. I can see it in, I mean, there's this fear of failure. And so even just trying to get him to just just do it. You can fail at doing it or make the mistakes in doing it, but just doing it. And I think that's where the frustration comes in is where's that line of I want to help you do your best, but I also want to be here to help you when you make mistakes. And that mistakes are learning. And so let's make the mistakes, but are we really learning? And I think that he's realizing that yes, he makes mistakes, and that's where the apologies come in, but then there's never the let's do something different. And so we do a lot of talking about that. Like, let's make the mistakes. Like, get your homework done. It doesn't have to be perfect. Make the mistakes, but let's do it. And then we can go over it, or we can see what we can do differently, or just do it. Do your best on it.
Yeah,
So
which
I
sounds
think it just makes me
lovely.
feel stuck.
That sounds lovely. But do you see the problems that it's causing? Like, it doesn't, it sounds beautiful. It sounds hopeful. It sounds like a great, easy, yeah. Who wouldn't just be like, yes, let's just do it. And everything will work out. And you're right, it would. But that
Mm-hmm.
feeling from stuckness,
Mm-hmm.
that is because you need somebody else to play along to get what you want, and they're not playing along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Son doesn't want to do it your way.
Yes.
He's doing it his way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're frustrated by that, which makes you less helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And you get less sleep, which is just rude.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So what's the alternative here?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like I think that, yeah, stuck. I feel stuck because I don't know what to do to help him and still teaching him responsibility and accountability
Yeah.
to
Okay.
succeed, but at the same time, not lose who he is.
So I love that you bring this up because this is a really common thought error for parents. And so this is a beautiful thing to highlight. You are teaching him responsibility and accountability. You 100% are. But you're basing your success off of his actions,
Hmm.
which you can't do
Yeah.
because, again, then they have to play along for us to feel good.
Hmm.
So, like, we could teach our child every week this is the proper way to wipe down the kitchen counter or to clean a bathroom. And they watch and they know exactly all 10 steps. And it's when it's their turn to clean the bathroom, they know the 10 steps, even if they
Hmm.
don't do them. They know them. You've shown them
Hmm.
every week. And you make them go back and fix step number 5 and 6 that they skipped, right? And so you want to shift your focus from calibrating your success or failure off of his behaviors
Hmm.
because that's where the stuck and the frustration comes from. Okay. And your question as to whether or not this is normal for a teenage boy, yes, this is normal for your son. And
Hmm.
it kind of doesn't matter if it's normal for every teenage boy, but we know this is normal for him.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we can just give up the whole like what should be normal. However, he's acting is normal for him.
Hmm.
Okay. So allowing him space to be his normal and loving him and allowing him to do his song and dance and not thinking that he should be doing it differently. If you could genuinely believe that, what would Monday night have looked? What would have been different for you? Like, yeah, this is what he does every Monday night, and it's not a
Hmm.
problem. And so I can adjust in these ways.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of how it becomes is I know that he's going to do this. And so that's kind of why I try to do it throughout the week. Maybe, I don't know. And maybe that's where I tried to change things. But if it, I don't know, I think it would look differently in if we, I don't know.
I know that that's what he's going to do, but there's a big piece
Yeah.
of you that's like, I got to get him to stop.
Well, I'm
Right?
just trying
Like
to think
he
too
needs
how
to figure it out. How can I get it to click for him so that he'll knock it off?
I think it's too thinking what is my responsibility in helping him, but not doing it for him or like
Yeah.
kind of letting him take that responsibility and not doing it for him and then kind of not abandoning him. I guess I feel like where's the line of either doing too much or doing too little? Where's that
Yeah.
balance? I'm not going to abandon you, but I'm not going to do it for you. How
Yes.
as a
Can you
parent, how to help?
sense that's another great question. Can you sense kind of where his like you have on one end of the spectrum what is very easy, And then on the other end
Mm-hmm.
of the spectrum, what would be impossible, right? Like rocket
Mm-hmm.
science, unless he's
Yes.
like a kid genius, right? And then somewhere
Mm-hmm.
between like stupid easy, like 1+1, and rocket science,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a line of kind of where his threshold is. Do you get
Mm-hmm.
a sense for where that is for him?
Yes.
Okay. And this
I
can
think.
go this can go for everything, like as far as getting
Mm-hmm.
himself organized, managing his time, doing his math. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like all the different places, we all have kind of this threshold where it crosses from what is possible for me, right? It gets harder and harder as we
Yes.
get away from the easy, what is
Yes.
possible, and then what I am not quite yet capable of, all the way to impossible. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
I could see that for sure. Yes.
Okay. What we want to do is most of the time, not every time, because that would be insufferable for everyone. A good deal of the time, we want to push them like 1 to 5% into what is impossible. What is like,
Okay.
okay, because we want to build resilience. We want them to fail so that they can see that it's not a problem and how
Mm-hmm.
to recover, and that their value isn't tied to their success or failure, that they're still totally lovable
Yes.
even when they bomb,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we actually don't want them to be saved every time. And
Right.
so, like, 1 to 10% into that land of like, I don't know if I'll succeed,
Mm-hmm.
like a good deal of the time. And you'll know when it's appropriate and when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you decide that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And then having conversations when he does fail, like, I love you. It's not a problem. What did you learn? What are your takeaways? And even
Mm-hmm.
when he has successes and he's like, I did it. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. What did you learn? What are your takeaways?
Yeah.
And then you really believing that failure is not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't.
So I've been asking that question a lot of a lot of people. Like how do you make mistakes be okay? And I'm still trying to figure that out for myself too, because in my example that I've been asking is if they break a window, there's a mistake there. And you can learn from it, but and maybe it being okay is the wrong way to phrase that. But how do you make that okay? Or even like a worse thing, like you accidentally hit somebody with your car and there's injuries there. Like that's there are mistakes there, but how do you get past the because it's not okay, but mistakes are learning at the same time. And
Why
my
is it not
question,
okay?
I don't know. I guess because other people are affected, or I don't know, the consequences. That's what I'm even trying to figure out, and maybe just even making it okay for myself so I can make it okay for them.
Yeah. I think that society teaches us what's okay, what's not okay, that we should really
Hmm.
beat ourselves up and punish ourselves. And we've got to question all of that and decide in any given situation if it's something that we want to keep and believe.
Hmm.
Does it create goodness? Does it invite us to be our highest self and integrity with ourselves? So let's say we hit somebody with a car and there are repercussions.
Hmm.
Like, on one level, of course, that's not okay.
Yeah.
But as long as we're believing it's not okay, that, we've done something bad, or that our kid lied to us, or that they're going to not pass their school grade or whatever, right? That they
Hmm.
suck at time
Hmm.
management. When we believe that that's not okay, does believing that help us to be more helpful? Does it help us to extend more love and grace and wisdom? Or do we need to replace it with, I don't prefer it, it's not a good thing, and yet it
Hmm.
is. And so I will make peace with it. And I will
Yes.
learn and grow and move through this. Like, we really want to look at belief systems and make sure that they actually aren't keeping us stuck, aren't keeping us in like a
Mm-hmm.
pattern of self-loathing, which it sounds like your son's already kind of adopting if he
Mm-hmm.
shuts down because it's too hard, because then he'll fail. And then that means he's really bad and maybe stupid or lazy and he doesn't want to think that about himself, but it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of those patterns, instead of just being like, okay, this is the consequence of what I've chosen. And how can I learn from this? And what can I improve upon? And just really dropping all the drama out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess my question on that too would be, I mean, is it more just the natural consequences? And I think that's part of where I feel like a lot of times there's just not a consequence where there should be. But
Yeah,
then how do you decide when to give a consequence or what the consequence should be and letting them learn from that? And is that just more of just the natural consequences? Like you miss out on this because you didn't
yeah,
get your work done.
we definitely want to have rules and consequences, and these become fewer and fewer the older our kids get,
Hmm.
right? So, like my kids in their 20s, I don't have a lot of rules and consequences for them,
Yeah.
as opposed to, my 14-year-old. Like there are
Hmm.
more rules and different things like that because and then it depends on each kid's personality and where you think that they need help. So for a younger teen tween, you should definitely still have rules and consequences. You can whatever intuitively feels the most helpful for you. And I have a whole episode, it's called The Letter of the Law, where I break down rules and consequences. But you can do positive reinforcement, right?
Hmm.
Like if you get everything turned in on time this week, then we're going to go for ice cream on Saturday. That would be one example. Or you can do a negative consequence, which would be if you don't get your homework done, then you don't get screen time this weekend.
Hmm.
And you know your household the best, you know your children the best, and you can come up with ways to encourage. But I want to warn you that rules and consequences aren't to manage their behavior.
Hmm.
Rules and consequences are so that you know that you're teaching and mentoring and loving and keeping people safe as best you can. Because every rule you throw down is probably going to be broken. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, it shouldn't be dramatic. It should just be like, bummer you lied about that. And now you got to go to school without it done. I'm so sorry. And I love you just the same.
Hmm.
And because you didn't have it done, you also don't get computer time tonight.
Hmm.
And then
That's good.
when their temper has calmed down, you can say, okay, how are we going to learn from this? What are our takeaways? What would you like to do differently if you didn't like this consequence? You have conversations around it, and he'll probably repeat it like 1,000 times. But when you're okay with that and you understand that's just the learning process, then you don't have that frustration because you're like, yeah, I have rules and consequences and systems in place for me to be comfortable with him not changing.
Hmm.
And maybe he will, maybe he won't, we don't know. But we
Yeah.
can drop the frustration when you drop the thought that he should be doing it differently.
Hmm.
He shouldn't be doing it differently.
Hmm.
But you can alter how you're showing up and how you're planning your routines and all the things to get what you need out of the situation, which is perhaps going to bed sooner or whatever. Like start it sooner or do the kids in two different phases now that you have two different age groups, or like there's a million ways you can
Hmm.
slice it. But
Yeah.
you're unable to think of that when you're like, why isn't this working?
Yes. Yes.
It's like hitting our head against a wall expecting the wall to disappear. No.
Hmm.
How you feeling?
That it's really good. And yeah, I think that I could see even just the freedom of that. Like you shouldn't be doing this differently. And that there's like I already feel lighter and freer, with just kind of just letting even just a thought.
Yay, that's good. Okay, Kaylin, would you like to come back for a follow-up episode to discuss application and how it's going.
Yes, definitely.
All right. We'll email you with all that information. And thank you for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts, questions?
Just thank you. Thank you for being willing to hear it all. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. I guess we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
All right. Thank you.
Heather is the one, an expert in the field. She knows her parenting stuff, including how confusing it can be. You've tried it all, and it's a lost cause. Crying in the closet 'cause you failed at being a mom. But think again, there's peace around the corner, and there's hope in your hands. Your kid just wants your love, and you want it from them. So take a pivot